In the previous verse, which I covered in the last video, it was said that by understanding the nature of all things, the mind is realized as Buddha. And this verse that we're covering in this video, verse 240, goes into this in a bit more detail. Verse 240 says, "Removed from the triple continuity, devoid of being and non-being, released from the four propositions, all things are always like Maya." It's our habits of thought and our habits of mood, which are the habits of unenlightenment. And these habits are reinforced by our conviction in them. We believe that they're right. It's a bit like road rage. The most intense anger and fury is reinforced by a conviction in our righteousness. We are convinced in the unassailable truth of our fundamental assumptions. In fact, our assumptions are so fundamental that we don't even realize that they're assumptions, because this is the way things are. There's a me here, a world out there. That's it. We cannot argue with that. And this me here has got to make a go of it out there. I've got to get what I can for me and mine. And I've got to protect me and mine from everything which might hurt them in some way. On some level this is true. This is how you have to operate. You have to engage to some extent and go along with this to some extent. But it's not the real story. It's not the true story. It's not the full story. The full story isn't going to help you in any of these goals. So if that's your attitude to what life is, then you just have to go and get on with it. But I assume because you're listening to this video that you're interested in something a bit more than the basic necessities. So one of these assumptions that we have is of time. We have a belief in a past, belief in a present, belief in a future. I'm assuming this is what's meant by the term triple continuity. I suspect it might be a technical term, but I'm not familiar with it, so if you happen to know what it's referring to, then please leave a comment. But it seems to me continuity is about time, and there's three aspects: there's the past, present and future. And if you subscribe to the Indian tradition, it means not just the past, present and future, but countless lives that have gone before, and the prospect of countless lives which come afterwards. So this is the scope that we're looking at. Although in the West, or if you're a modern scientific thinker, there's something similar in the story of evolution and of the beginning of the universe and all the rest of it. There's this idea that it's been going on for a long time, and it's going to go on for a long time afterwards, even after we're all gone. So there's this story that The world out there has been there for a very long time, and so have we, in one form or another. So that's one of the stories that we need to remove ourselves from. We need to also remove ourselves from notions of being and non-being, of things that come into being and then disappear out of being, things that are born and things that die, people that are born and people that die. That's something which we take for granted. We don't question this, do we? Right now, there is nobody else in the world. This seems like a shocking statement to say, but I am alone here. And when somebody turns up, they've come into being. We assume that they've been carrying on somewhere else. They've got their own life, their own timeline. But that's an inference, that's an assumption. I've got a stock of memories. That stock of memories tells me that my wife will be home shortly from work. And she'll turn up, no doubt, hopefully. And she'll have some stories to tell. So things have got a history. The world's got a history. The universe has a history. People have history. Other creatures have histories. But in this verse, we are asked to realize that all things are always like Maya. And Maya is of the nature of a dream. And in a dream, there are things and there are people. And these things and these people have histories. And yet, we've no problem in realizing that all these histories are just created in the same way as part of the dream. But we have this big prejudice against doing this in the so-called waking state. So this prejudice has to be examined. As enlightenment practitioners, we stop giving history to things. This is what the triple continuity and being and non-being represent. The giving of history to things. The giving of memories. The giving of substance to memories. So that's what we have to stop doing. Stop giving history to things and people. Stop giving history to things and entities. And we realise we can't say anything about them. This is what the third term means, released from the four propositions. These are the four propositions of Indian logic. In the West there are just two propositions. Something can be either this or it's not this. So this is how we describe things. We can say it's black or it's not black. It's round, it's not, or it's not round. It's human or it's not human. It's male or it's female, A or not A. These are the two propositions. But Indian logic covers all the options and somehow covers the possibility that something could be both black and white. I'm no expert in Indian logic. Might be worth looking into this at some point, but we don't need to worry about it. Indian logic is just a bit more thorough. So things can be both something and its opposite, and there's also the possibility that it can be neither something nor its opposite. So these are the 4 propositions, and what it means is we just can't say anything about anything. The first 2 are about giving a history to things, rather than experiencing things as simply popping into awareness, which is actually what's happening. Things pop into awareness as part of the stream of experiencing. It's changing all the time, and we get caught up in it by giving history to aspects of it, and in doing so giving them their own individual reality. And then we continue this process of giving them their own individual reality by describing them in all sorts of different ways. These are the 4 propositions. And it's said to you that all things are always like Maya, and all things, the word here apparently is bhava, which means becoming. It's this process by which all things come to be regarded as real. But they're Maya. This is the realization. It's not something which has to be argued or proved as a philosophical point. It's something that we need to keep reminding ourselves of, though, as enlightenment practitioners. All things are like Maya. They're of the nature of dream. And once we realize this, there's awakening.